Hello, welcome back to Scale Modelling Cafe and welcome to another video in the series of my favourite kits. And the subject of this one is this. It's a 1/48 scale Seafire 15. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Seafire 15 was the interim model for the Royal Navy. It was the Navy's first Griffin-engined Seafire, and it's essentially a bit of a lash up. So it's a Seafire, effectively a Spitfire Mark 8 with a Griffin whatever on the front. I can't remember the actual Griffin, but it's the short-nosed one, like the Spitfire Mark 12. This was, it still had all the Seafire problems, bouncing on landing and all that kind of stuff. And couple that with the torque from the Griffin engine, it really was a bit of a handful. Sort of arrived right at the very end of the war. In fact, it just missed the war, I think. But it was, yeah, an interesting stopgap before the Seafire 17 came along, which was cured a lot of the Seafire's problems. Primarily, the undercarriage was shortened and had a slightly more forward rake on it to stop the bouncing. That's going to be the subject of another video. In fact, it is the subject of another video in 72nd. This is 48th. Now, Special Hobby make a Seafire 15. This is not the Special Hobby kit. This is the Eduard Spitfire Mark 9 with the Airfix Seafire 17 kit. The nose fits really well. Obviously, that's the main focus of the conversion, is the nose. And what I did is I just cut away the sort of Merlin, excuse me, the side cowling parts, and then cut off the nose of the Airfix kit and then grafted the two halves on. Lots of test fitting, obviously, but as you can see, it fits really very nicely. And I was so chuffed with how that turned out. It really was very cool. What was more tricky was fitting the carb intake on the underside here. Now, clearly, it's not built for this kit, and it didn't really fit that well at all. But you know, with lots of test fitting, trimming, and some filling here and there, you can get it to go in. And actually, you can see it's quite a neat result. The cockpit, stick my specs on. The cockpit has, oh, I've just knocked the aerial mast, the whip aerial, which is thin wire, actually, luckily. Right, yeah, the cockpit. I think the Eduard Brassing cockpit is a little bit of a waste of time, because all you need to do with the kit cockpit really is to drill out all the lightning holes, and that's where you're going to get most of the benefit from. The resin sort of side parts that go down, they're kind of buried really, and you can't really see them. So I really don't see the point in all that. What I have done on this is I've added the Barracuda cast or Barracuda Studios cockpit upgrade set for it, and that's really good because not only do you get a more detailed seat, which is obviously very prominent in the Spitfire. So I turn it around here while I'm talking about it. Not only do you get the seat, which is a lot more prominent, the padding is beautifully moulded, but you also get all the little detail bits around the top half of the cockpit, which is a little bit lacking in the Eduard kit, and it makes it really busy and dresses it up really very nicely. What I really like about that set is the oxygen hose that's kind of clipped onto the right hand wall here. which is a very prominent feature which is missing in the kit. So that's kind of the cockpit and the nose. The other and the carb intake. The other bits and pieces underneath are the obviously the spinner and the prop, which is from Airfix. The rudder, which just fits really quite nicely, and as you can see, this is the rudder from the Seafire kit. The retractable gear. Now, this particular one didn't have the little frame underneath, which protected the tail wheel from the arrestor, because obviously in this configuration, normally the earlier Seafires, the Merlin Seafires, had the A-frame under the rear fuselage, under here. With the Griffin aeroplanes, they moved the tail hook to the rudder, and it's called the Stinger hook. Obviously, because it sticks out the back end like a bee sting. But what they found is that the arrestor wire could catch on the tail wheel and either damage it or bounce up the tail wheel so the hook would miss. What they did for the Seafire XVII was they introduced like a little metal guard under here. But that wasn't on this particular aeroplane. The other thing I've done is I think they're the catapult spools at the back. They might be here, or it's I think it actually is the slinging points at the back. So that's it for the conversion, really. Relatively straightforward, because the back end the rudder and everything just sticks on. The nose fits actually really quite well. And the carb intake underneath was a little bit tricky, but not too bad. On this one, all the markings are sprayed. There's no decals on it. To be honest, I can't remember how I got there. What I did do as well, actually, I just forgot to mention, is I scribed in the wing fold. You can see underneath here the wing fold line, and obviously the wingtips have a panel line there anyway. So didn't need to do those, but certainly the wing fold. And what I did was I converted a Airfix Spitfire Mark V into a Seafire Mark III, and I had leftover bits and pieces from that as well. And what I did on that one is I made a card template for the wing fold, which is on a little bit of a curve and stuff, so I used that on this as well. The paints are in the classic sort of temperate sea scheme, so the sky and the slate grey and extra dark sea grey. The code letter, that was just I think I just had a scrap letter which I just used, and it's in an unusual place, just up there, which is quite nice. The Royal Navy and the serial are decals from the spares box, and that was the markings. Yeah, some quite heavy weathering on this one. They flew pretty harsh conditions, if I'm honest, and the classic Spitfire oil streaking underneath. I could have even gone a lot more heavy on that, but, so that's relatively restrained for these aeroplanes. But I love that oil streaking on the light colour on the bottom of a Spitfire or Seafire. Excuse me, I really like that. So there we are. Now, here we go, competition time. I entered this into Telford and it got absolutely nowhere, which it is fine. I think because it's such a good conversion in that I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I'm more that the Airfix nose fitting so well to the fuselage, it almost looks like a stock kit. And I'm wondering if that just passed the judges by, really. It was all written on the card. But it's funny, the old Telford competition. subject for a separate video, I know. Very much judged by laymen, I think, and having judged them myself and interacted with a few of the other judges, yeah, there's a lot of laymen in there, which my good friend Andy, who's the competition secretary, is slowly weaning them out, and it is getting better. It sounds like I'm bitter and twisted about this. That absolutely not. Far from it. Because there were better aeroplanes in the competition actually that came above this, but it was just, I just had a wry smile inside, because, like I say, I don't think the judges necessarily appreciated the work that actually went in. But there we are. I'm kind of digressing. That is the Eduard and Airfix Seafire Mark 15. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.